Alright, what's going on, y'all? In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can run really long and far. The tips I'm going to show you today completely revolutionized my running. It took me from being a runner who struggled with even short runs to being able to run ultramarathons. So right now I'm getting ready to step out in the hot Texas heat. It's very hot this week. I'm getting ready to do my long run for the week, and then I'll come back and we'll go ahead and get into this training talk. Alright, so I got back from that run and I literally looked like I had jumped in the pool with how soaked my shorts were. It is so freaking hot and humid in Austin, Texas right now. I keep saying it, but this is going to be an extremely hot and intense summer, but it'll be a good one. So I actually wrapped up the full week of training for the first week of the 50-mile training prep. I'll talk to you guys about how everything went, where we are with the training, all of that at the end of this video, at the end of the training talk. So with this training talk literally is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing I learned that completely changed my running. I was literally a struggling runner that had trouble running just 5-6 miles. I loathed running. I was the type of guy that, I would love strength training. I'd love going up and throwing up a ton of weights, and I could go out and max out, a great set on bench or something like that. But when it came to running, I loathed running because of how uncomfortable it was and how few results I actually saw from me doing that. I just thought I was I had the body type that isn't very good for running. After I learned this, I saw insane results to where I'm actually, I can run 50 miles and still feel pretty strong. And I actually ran my first 50 miler with, pretty decent time. Definitely not an elite ultramarathoner time by any means, but a pretty decent time, and it far exceeded my goals. And it's all because of what I'm going to talk to you guys about today. So I could go into this training talk for hours. I'm going to give you all the kind of short, simple, sweet version of this. That way you can get started. I'm going to give you the layman's version. That way, it's pretty easy to understand and you can get rocking and rolling with this. So before I explain what all of this is, I saw the proof in the pudding of this with my last 50-mile race. I was very early on to the race, maybe 3, 4, 5 miles at most, when a guy probably about my age came up next to me. He asked me, how I trained. I explained this, and then, he told me his strategy, and it was how most people train, and then he took off from me. We were getting ready to go up a hill, and he took off up that hill, and he was already breathing pretty hard. I was listening to him breathe, and I thought, unless this guy is just, absolutely just a beast like I've never seen before, he's gonna have a pretty tough time later on in the race. And no joke, literally maybe 5-10 miles later, I saw him already walking and struggling through aid stations. I don't know what his time was when he finished, but that's how a lot of people go out with this. And if you go ahead and you follow what I'm talking about today, it will revolutionize your running and you will be able to run for a lot longer. So how most people run. Now I'm talking most runners out there, most amateur runners at least, go out and they literally just put on a watch and they go out. They'll be breathing hard, they'll feel like they got a good workout in, not really tracking anything. Some people following the plan might actually go off pace if they've got, a race goal, say a marathon goal of, doing their first marathon in under 4 hours or something like that. They'll be trying to do certain pace. That's a little bit better than literally just throwing on the watch and just going out and pushing yourself. But most people go out there and essentially what they're doing is they're running their easy days too hard and their hard days too easy. I'm going to explain what all of this means. All right, so to keep things simple, I'm going to refer to the heart rate zones as green, yellow, and red. Green, obviously easy. Yellow is kind of in between, and then red, that's like all out hard. So the green zone, that should be your easy aerobic run. These are building up your aerobic base. Your aerobic base is where you really want to be for these really, really long efforts. If you're trying to go out and do, say, a marathon, or especially if you're going out and trying to do ultramarathon, most of your runs, at least 80% of your runs, this is where the 80-20 rule really comes in. 80% of your runs should be in that easy zone. There's many different ways to calculate what your green heart rate zone is, but you should be within that. On your hard days, so your track workout days, this could be, your interval days, your tempo days, they should be in that red zone. This is 20% of your runs, maybe even less than 20%. But that's where you go all out. What most people do is they fall right in the middle of that in that yellow zone. The yellow zone is the dead zone. That's where you don't have very much benefit. You don't have very much aerobic benefit, and frankly, you're not getting many results on the anaerobic side either. And that's where most people fall. That's where I fell before I learned how to follow all of this and do it in a right way and actually get results from this. So just to lay things out short and simple, you've got a green, yellow, and red zone. Most people are following that yellow zone, which you can think of as the dead zone. So to run really, really far, you want to build up that aerobic base. That aerobic base, that's that fat burning zone. That's where, when you go out doing ultras, you can't really just be relying on sugar. You're gonna run out of your sugar stores way too fast, and you're not gonna be able to take in enough food as quickly enough to essentially get you through, 50 mile, 100 mile, 200 mile ultra, if you're just relying on carbs. And when you're anaerobic, you're really, really burning into carbs. You're not really burning into fat as much. When you're aerobic, you're really, really burning into that. And if you go ahead and you do a lot of training in that easy aerobic zone, you're building up that aerobic base. You're gonna be getting more and more and more efficient in that aerobic zone, and that's where you can literally chug along all day long. And that's where I've told you guys, my strength when it comes to running is not essentially running really, really fast. I'm not the fastest 5K runner out there. I'm definitely not the fastest half marathon or even marathon, but when it comes to getting up in the longer distances, because I built up such a powerful aerobic base, I can kind of hit that one low gear and hold it all day long and just keep burning through my fat stores and really have energy to finish out strong. So the type of training that absolutely changed my world is called MAF training, MAF. So this is essentially where you can go ahead, you can find your heart rate, you can do 180 minus your age. And then there's a calculation that, you might subtract 5 or add 5 depending on where you're at with your training, have you been injured, all of that. But essentially, to keep it simple, it's 180 minus your age. And that's your MAF heart rate. And you do not want to go over that. So you want to be right under your MAF heart rate and hold it there. And if you keep doing this day after day after day, and at least 80% of your runs are in that MAF zone, you're going to get more and more efficient. So to give you guys kind of a real world example of this, what might happen is if you find out your MAF zone, you might find out your heart rate. Let's say your heart rate is 150. Keep it simple. Let's say you're 30 years old, your heart rate is 150. Right now, you might go out for a 5 mile run. You'll stick at 150. You might have to slow down to say 10, 11 minute miles, even slower. You might even have to walk to keep your heart rate under that amount. But then what's gonna happen in 2 months from now, you're now gonna be at say 10:30 if you're at 11 minute miles, and now you're not walking anymore at that same heart rate. And this is conversation pace. So this is where you can go out and you feel so comfortable. This is where I talked about people are running their easy days too hard. They're not really getting benefit. This is where you truly are in that easy day. And this is where you can run really far at that conversation pace. So you might start out to where you're at that 10:30, 11 minute mile. Then you come a year later after you being consistent and on the same trail, you go up for the same distance. Now you're doing that at 8-minute miles. This is where but you're still at that same perceived effort. You're still at that same effort to where you're still talking. This is exactly what happened with me. When I found out my MAF heart rate and I really, really committed to doing this, I saw everybody's results with this. I really committed to following heart rate training. In the very beginning, it was very demoralizing. I had to slow way down from the runs I did in the military, runs I did, in the fire department, when I was doing half marathons, even marathons. I had to slow way down. And this is where, you can't have an ego when it comes to doing MAF training, because you will have to slow down a lot. But if you're willing to do that, what will happen is over time, your aerobic base will get so extremely powerful that you'll be able to, go from running, 10-minute miles at that one heart rate to now say 8-minute miles. And then when you want to run fast, remember I said that's your easy aerobic zone. When you want to run fast, now you can run, 6:30, 6-minute miles. And before it crushed you to even run 7-minute miles. So this is where it's extremely powerful to build up this aerobic base. Now, I'm not saying to go ahead and cut out speed work or anything like that, but at most follow the 80-20 rule. What I did is essentially for at least a year, I cut out almost all speed work. I did about 90-95% of my runs were in this MAF zone, and then occasionally I'd throw in, a tempo run here or interval workout here, but 90-95% of the time for at least the first year, if not a year and a half, I was following MAF, and I saw extremely insane results, and to where I could, go out, I've explained my story about how I had a 16-mile run that brought me to my knees, and now 16 milers, I can go out and it's easy, and I'm running it way faster than the one that brought me to my ease, and I'm feeling very, very comfortable doing that. So this is where, go ahead, find your MAF, find that heart rate zone, And if you go ahead and you actually have patience and consistency, because that's what it takes. It takes both patience and consistency. If you're willing to do that, you will come out the other side as a great, great, great long distance runner. This in itself, following heart rate training and specifically math training, you don't have to just do math. You know, a lot of the amazing, you know, Olympic athletes and all that, they don't necessarily follow math, but most out there follow heart rate training, and most out there absolutely follow the 80-20 rule to where they're not doing junk miles in that yellow dead zone. Most are doing, you know, their easy days in that green aerobic zone to where it is conversation pace, and then their hard days, their red zone days, they're going all out. Those speed workout days are supposed to be all out, where most people, you know, they're always in the yellow zone. They're either on the lower end of the yellow zone to where it sucks, but it's not that bad. And then when they have, you know, track workout day or speed workout day, they may be in the upper end of the yellow zone, but, you know, it's not in that red zone to where they're going all out. So now let's say that you've been following, you know, just a certain goal pace for your training runs or something like that. And now you're wanting to get into heart rate training. I'm telling you what, guys, if you're not into heart rate training, this will change everything for you. And you'll actually enjoy running as you're doing this. This is one thing too, that this has helped me enjoy running so much more. I'm able to, on my easy days, you know, have active meditation or, you know, read an audiobook or, you know, listen to a podcast, something like that. And then on my hard days, I can actually go all out and actually feel like I've got, you know, the reserves and the energy to go all out in that red zone on those days. This will help you with everything when it comes to running. So if you've been following pace and now you're wanting to get into heart rate training and you have no idea, you know, how to track this. So first off, you can go ahead and use a heart rate strap, a chest strap that'll go around here. That's actually what I did for the first year and a half, 2 years of heart rate training, is I used a chest strap that synced to my Garmin watch. And I started with a Garmin watch for years. It was a Garmin 235. I did that for half marathon training. Then when I went ahead and got into ultras, I used the Garmin 235 for a while, but the battery life on that won't last as long as I wanted, so I moved over to Coros. Coros is a relatively new brand that has extremely long battery life. And most of the runs now, sometimes, especially on speed workout days, I'll still use a chest strap, but I can go ahead and essentially just with the watch have my heart rate. I've seen that it's extremely accurate. You know, it's not as accurate as a chest strap, but it's good enough for what I'm doing. So, you know, if you don't have a running watch like a Garmin, a Suunto, a Coros, something that tracks your heart rate by either chest strap or your wrist, then I definitely suggest you get something that tracks your heart rate. But that's the simple, short, sweet version of this. Essentially, you've got your heart rate zones, the green, yellow, red. Yellow is the dead zone that you don't want to be in. Green, you want to be in at least 80% of the time, and that's building up your aerobic base to where you can run really, really, really far, very efficiently, be in that fat burning zone, all of that. That's what you want. You're just going to have to take your ego out of it for a bit. If you haven't been doing heart rate training, you're going to have to go ahead and essentially put your ego to the side, because you're going to most likely have to slow down quite a bit, maybe even walk during some of your runs. But just be encouraged, because whether it takes 3 weeks, whether it takes 3 months, you will see improvement with this to where you're running the same exact route in that same exact effort to where you're able to have a conversation, but now you're actually doing it much, much, much faster. And that's the beautiful thing. You'll go from running 10-minute miles down to 7:30, 8-minute miles at that same exact effort to where you can have a conversation, all of that. And you can run all day long and do those 50 milers, those 100 milers, even more. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that training talk. Seriously, this is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing I've applied to my running. It really has changed my world, and it's what I attribute to me being able to move over into ultramarathons. Don't get me wrong, you know, even if you're running, you know, at that lower heart rate and you're able to go do 50, 100 miles, your body still really hurts and breaks down, and you still have to go through those deep, deep, deep pain caves. This is not taking away pain caves. And so I could definitely do a whole talk on how to run longer and further, you know, on the mental side, because there's absolutely a mental callousing that you'll have to go through to run those really long races or whatever. But, you know, at least on the physical side, this is how you do it. You got to build up that aerobic base. So right now, let's go ahead and do the weekly wrap up of this week of training. So this was the first week of the 50-mile training prep. Everything went great this week. Body felt great. I did 6 runs for a total of 50 miles. all of the runs this week were in that aerobic zone. I did all of them in my MAF heart rate. My MAF heart rate, by the way, is 152. So I keep all of my aerobic zones usually between like 148 to 152. So all this week we're in that. I didn't have any speed workout. The only speed I really added into this week was I did some strides at the end of some of the runs, but there's no speed workout. This next week, we are adding speed workouts in. It's going to the 80-20 rule this next week, and miles are upping. So the first week was 50 miles total. This next week, it's gonna be even more miles. I did 5 strength workouts, and those were a combination between core workouts, weights, and then HIIT workouts. And those were all good. So this next week, the big change is just increasing miles up from 50. We'll never dip below 50 in this whole training prep, and then adding in the speed workouts. But overall, all of this went great. I know some of you are starting to up your miles. I've been getting a lot of DMs from y'all on Instagram. If you're not following my Instagram, definitely follow me over there. You can ask me questions. I keep you posted day to day with all of my training, all of that. I'd love to go ahead and connect with you. But if you have any questions about all of this, drop a comment down below. Hit me up on Instagram. I love going ahead and connecting with all of you, seeing what all of you are doing. A lot of you guys out there are beasting right now, and I love watching all of that. But if you could please go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, leave any comments or questions down below, and I'll see you guys in the next 50-mile training prep video. Be happy, be positive, be powerful. Have a great day.